Okay, so what are we looking at in terms of the difference that we got to make between a flat serve and a slice serve? Point of contact, okay? Where these strings strike the tennis ball, to me, is everything with regards to the result that I'm going to get. So I think all of you out there that are watching this have probably seen me at some point reference the writing on the tennis ball, okay? And I firmly believe that a good flat serve, heavy pronation, big flat point of contact should occur just above the middle of the letters of the word pen here. All right, and so a lot of players out there, I think, are pretty good at hitting that spot of the ball. They have the flat serve going, and they want there to be this, huge difference between flat and slice. So we'll see a change in racket path. We'll see a massive change in contact. I see this for slice serve a lot, where the toss starts going way out here, the swing path starts really curving out and around, and the contact point isn't even going to touch the letters. It's going to be so significantly to the side of the ball. You're going to see a lot of spin, but in terms of effectiveness, the ball speed is so slow. The curve, after seeing it 2 times, is so predictable that that's going to be a really easy return for my opponents to get a handle on. So what we're trying to do in terms of differences is just have a slight adjustment on the tennis ball, because we still need some power, we need some pace on a good slice serve, and to get so far to the side of the tennis ball, we lose that. So for me, when we see that pen writing again, I think somewhere in terms of the last N, okay, if I make contact somewhere around that last N here, I'm still going to be obviously imparting a little more friction. With that flat serve, it hits, it's gone. There's not a ton of time that the ball remains on my strings. Once I'm starting to get slightly off center, that's going to create friction, therefore it's going to spin. But because I'm still somewhat close to the middle of the ball, I'm still using my pronation, and therefore I'm not losing a ton of power. All right, so I want to show you first a flat serve. Watch closely. We're going to slow-mo these. Watch my contact point, and you're going to see, hopefully, my strings come right over the top middle letter on the word pen here. All right, I think I got that one pretty square. I did a little trick. I kept that toss a little lower to get on top of the ball. Now, little different tennis ball here, couple extra letters, but now watch in slow motion for my slice serve. You're going to see my strings slightly get off to the side of the ball. The path of the racket does not change. I don't want to start throwing my arm out of whack when I'm serving. I've got this, biomechanical swing that's also known as just range of motion. We want to have good range of motion. That's going to occur when I swing from behind me, in front of me. If I start messing around with that to get slice, a lot of problems creep in. The result of the shot isn't great, injury creeps in, all that stuff. So I'm going to keep my racket path the same and watch closely at point of contact now. Missed that by a little. We'll go one more here. Want to make that serve for you guys. Okay. Good example right there. I still feel a lot of explosiveness in that serve, and that's the beauty of a great slice, is it's going to hit and turn off the bounce. It's going to spin off the bounce, but still force my opponent to play with a timing issue, because I'm not significantly losing power. So that to me is the main difference between flat and slice. Adjust that point of contact a little bit between the top middle of the ball and slightly right of center. Now, you know, we've heard probably, you know, this idea, well, what if I crank my hips open a little more to help get that wide ball? Now, I think the idea does not work, because I, you know, feasibly could open up a little bit more to feel like I'm lined up out wide. But what if I do that and my point of contact is still right on the middle of that ball? Now all I have is an out wide flat serve. So that doesn't necessarily create slice, simply because, you know, I come wide open. I'm hitting a flat ball and I'm losing court. Okay, so I don't love the idea that we're going to play around with opening up our hips significantly earlier and farther to the left, because, again, that doesn't dictate how the ball comes off the strings. Where I meet the ball does. So stick with that idea, just point of contact. It's obviously a subtle difference, and yet the dispersion on the ball here being so small, pretty significant on that side. So that's a pretty cool idea right there. All right, so this is just kind of that broad idea. Should our stance change between deuce and ad? At the really beginner levels, this is a major, major problem. So I'm not saying this is something a lot of you out there deal with, but I have some people that I coach that are pretty new to tennis, that because the target is on the left when they're standing on the deuce side, they'll stand wide open like this. So the hips are already open, the shoulders are open. That's obviously for a right-handed player. You know, again, we've got mechanics we want to be using. We don't just want to face our body to the target. So I think the deuce side for the right-hander is kind of the tricky side, whether you're that beginner who feels like you have to open up, or you're trying to develop this really spinny slice serve. You'll see this a lot, where a right-hander on the deuce side will turn into John McEnroe. All right, and that back foot is, you know, pretty much parallel to the baseline. It's going to create this really roundabout swing. The ball's going to spin a ton, and it looks nothing like kind of their standard flat serve or any other serve they might hit. So what does that do for the returner? Tips them off, and also changes the mechanics of your swing. So you're now hitting two different strokes to hit your serve. To me, that's never a great idea. We want to utilize the swing that really works and is efficient, and be able to just, again, change the point of contact on the tennis ball to get that effective slice. All right, so let's look at stance for a second here. To me, you know, there's this 45-degree window that we have. I think if you look at my stance, you know, I'm somewhere about there. This would be a 45-degree angle, and this is parallel to the baseline, right? So McEnroe had this. That's pretty extreme. Couple other players might have that. I don't love this because you have to come so far open. But on the flip side of that, somebody like Goran Ivanisevic would serve a little more open stance. He'd set like this and come up. He's a little anomaly, though. He was 6'5", he was left-handed, he just unbelievable serve, but not something that I would probably recommend for a lot of players. So I think, again, everybody's got their own comfortability level, but we should be dealing with a stance in that 45-degree window between, you know, kind of back to front with the stance and somewhere closer to parallel with the baseline. To me, that happy middle, for me, is the most comfortable. And that's, again, regardless of platform like I serve, or pinpoint where you bring that foot up. That really doesn't matter whether you step up or not. You want to have that nice shoulder turn built in to the start of your motion. So anywhere around here, you can see my shoulders are really nicely turned to the side of the court, which means that when I toss the ball up and start swinging, I'm going to get those shoulders nice and open. So let's take a look out of my stance. You know, a little bit of a slice serve here, and you can see how the shoulders are going to uncoil when I hit the ball. Okay, facing out, was turned at the start. Now, when I get to the ad side, should I be changing that stance at all? That's a little bit of a discussion. I feel like my stance changes slightly, but again, I'm still within that 45-degree window, so I don't feel like I'm making a mistake to have a slight change. What happens for me here is, because the target is now back to my right, I try to get that really closed off feeling. So I think my back foot on the ad side actually gets a little more kind of out the back side. That creates a little more of a pronounced shoulder turn, which is really important to me when the target's to my right, because again, I don't want to feel like I'm facing the target at the start. I'm going to lose a lot of those mechanics if I get lined up and I feel like I'm facing out there. This would be a danger spot. So I swing that back leg behind me just a little bit more, not significantly different from that side. So therefore, I'm still relying on the same service motion, just with a little more of a pronounced turn at the start. Once again, doesn't matter if you are pinpoint or platform like me. If you want to change the position of this back foot slightly more away from center on the ad side, to me that's a good adjustment. If you stay the exact same and you're comfortable with that, of course that's okay too. All right, so let's have a look. I'll throw a little bit of a slice serve up the tee right here. All right, two pretty good results. Slight change in stance, not much, and therefore, once again, the only thing that I am relying on to hit that slice, as opposed to a flat serve on both the deuce and the ad sides, is my point of contact. I'm not looking at that stance saying, oh, this is going to dictate that I get to hit slice or not. It's just point of contact. Okay, so there's a lot of kind of hybrid serves out there. I want to just look at two today. We call them the slick serve and the slat serve. And let me kind of preempt this just by saying the reason that we're seeing a lot of hybrid serves on the pro game, you know, at the club level, is once again, as the server, you want to keep the returner on their toes. Any slight difference in the bounce of the ball, in the pace of the ball, you know, you're just making life more difficult for the returner when they have to adjust a little bit. So with that being said, with these two serves I'm going to show you today, you're not going to see some mind-blowingly different serve than I've showed you before. You're going to see subtle differences. So make sure you take these two with a grain of salt today and, you know, try to work them into your game, but don't look for like two brand new serves in your arsenal. Okay, so before I get into the slick serve, which is a combination between slice and kick, I want to just go through what I would do on the baseline if I was missing a standard forehand. Okay, so here's the standard forehand that I'm missing. Okay, so what naturally would I do if that shot crept into my game a couple times? I'd add more spin. Okay, I think we can all agree that spin is a great way to make any shot you're hitting a little bit safer than, you know, going all out and possibly hitting the ball more on the flat side. Okay, so let's get into the slick serve. Let me be very clear. This ball is still a slice, so the bounce of the ball should still be moving from right to left. Let me show you my standard slice. As a right-handed player, I'm going to be making contact, as we've described, a little more on the right side of the lettering, and that creates a ball that curves from right to left. So let's see a standard slice here. Okay, so there's that curve. Now, the reason to combine a little bit of this kick idea to a slice serve is to get that idea of hitting up on the ball a little more, a la that forehand I just added topspin to. So this is still in the family of a slice serve. The ball's going to still curve from right to left, But on that standard slice, if you had paid attention, my follow through off contact is really working down. Okay, and I've said I want a decent amount of power still when I hit a slice serve. So by compressing the ball a little more on the outside and hitting down, I'm giving myself more pace, obviously. So the addition to the follow through on a slick serve is just going to be that contact's still the same, and I'm going to try to get this small addition of working up the tennis ball. That should give me a little more net clearance, because the most common miss in tennis for the server is in the net, even for a tall guy like myself. We miss in the net when things are going a little bit off. So to add this idea of kind of kicking the ball up on a slice serve builds in a little more net clearance as the ball's crossing over. Okay, now again, like I've said, this is a really subtle thing. So watch the follow through, or just after contact on this slick serve, you're going to see me really try to hold the strings up the tennis ball a little longer than I would on a standard slice. And let's take a look at how the ball clears the net. Okay, pretty good right there. Now I kind of held the finish just so you guys could see. I would still follow through down, but I wanted you to see as I get to that point of contact for slice, I'm really trying to still elevate the strings up the ball a little bit. So now you saw a bouncing ball from right to left, but the bounce jumps up a little bit. Ball speed was definitely a little slower. So be careful that you're not looking for the same exact pace on your standard slice as you would on your slick serve. I definitely lost a little ball speed by adding that height, but again, what did I gain? A feeling that I could for sure make that serve even under a pressure situation because I'm taking the net out of play. All right, so again, small difference. Rather than really kind of compressing the ball and working down on a standard slice, we're making the same contact, trying to elevate a little more before we come down, and it's just going to lift that ball up and give you a little more security on that serve. So that is the slick serve, still in the family of a slice serve. Now the slat serve. This is even more subtle, but I think for a lot of you out there, I personally don't use this all that much. I think the height that I have is such an advantage on my flat serve. I really trust it. So I rarely use a slat serve, but the idea is this. The standard flat serve is the fastest ball you can hit. It's coming down out of the air the quickest. It's probably the steepest dropping serve. Again, what does that probably make us feel? I might miss this in the net, especially as I try to hit it a little bit harder. So the idea of a slat serve is way more in the family of a flat serve, not slice, but on contact for a true flat serve, right above that middle letter, all I'm going to do is make the exact same contact and just try to kind of fall off the side of the ball ever so slightly. Again, small adjustments. Don't take this idea and run with it and start, trying to hammer slice serves. This is still a flat serve that just adds a hint of spin. So let's watch my standard flat serve. Watch contact really closely. I mean, that's dead flat. I don't see any spin on that ball. So now in my head, to keep it very simple, I'm just going to let that ball spin slightly off my strings, still with the intent of seeing a serve very similar to that right there. All right, so there's, again, small adjustment. You can still hear the sound of that serve. Pretty big pop to it, because I am very much hitting a flat serve, with a touch of spin. And again, that could either be just for a slight bit of safety to ensure that I feel like I can make the serve. The other idea would be this. If I, want to make the returner maybe dig a ball out of their left hip, I can target the tee serve, which I would normally target for my standard flat. Target the tee, it moves slightly inside to the body of the returner and maybe gives me a little better chance to jam them up rather than just go for the all-out ace. Okay, so there's the slick serve and the slat serve. There's definitely more out there. I wanted to touch on those two today because a lot of times those are the ones you'll hear the tennis commentators talk about with the pros most often. But again, small adjustments. Don't look for a huge difference between, you know, the serves that they're blended with and the new serve that's coming out. All right, so how do we apply the slice serve in a real point setting? Okay, so I love the idea that the out wide serve is the one we're going to really rely on. Okay, because if I hit a serve kind of halfway between Mark and the single sideline and I get him pulled over there, hopefully even a little bit more, I love the idea that in his mind, he's got to race back and cover the other side of the court for his next ball. That's a lot of court to cover. Most people tend to panic when there's a lot of court to cover. So I can set that panic in just simply by getting that slice serve out wide. One thing that's really key to, you know, kind of be able to utilize that play is that I've got to take the return that Mark hits pretty early. Okay, I got to expose the footwork a little bit. So if I serve out wide, he gets over, and then I kind of retreat back either for forehand or backhand, it's giving the opponent more time to get back into the middle and get comfortable. So that out wide slice serve, that play that we're designing, you've got to pre-plan taking the second ball pretty early to make sure that you're effective. Okay, so let's try that one. Slice out wide, Mark knows what's coming. So I better hit a pretty good slice serve here. All right, so that works awesome. Obviously, Mark's so stretched. I'm looking at taking that next ball early, and a lot of times because of that, I'll be very aware when that return actually lands short in the court. I think that's something to remember as well. When you're looking to take a ball early, also be aware that the serve could produce kind of that floaty, weak shot from the opponent that might really force you to step up inside the court. You don't want that to be a surprise because then you'll kind of get that opportunity wasted a little bit. All right, now, second play I love, exact same serve, and it would be something I use after I've used that play a couple times, okay? Because now, if I've done that to Mark 2 or 3 times in a match, he's going to be so keen not to get beat out wide that he'll start running so hard, hopefully, that I'll take a similar shot and go back into the same corner. And you've heard me most likely describe that as going behind the guy. He's running one way, I'm playing my next shot in behind him. If his foot speed is quick enough, it's going to be impossible for him to change direction and go back the other way. So same out wide slice serve on the deuce side. Look for that short ball. Look to take the shot early and then hit back in behind him so that he's, you know, basically stuck. Can't get back around and cover that ball. All right. So that works, obviously, you know, and that's preying upon a couple patterns that you've already used, making the opponent feel like they know what's coming. Then all of a sudden you throw a wrench in it and go the other direction. Same serve, so not really much to think about other than where to target that second ball after you ultimately create some confusion for your opponent. So 2 really good ones with the out wide serve. Now the third one we're going to look at is going to be here on the ad side. Okay, so my slice serve would go down the tee here. And the reason for this play is that I'm going to slice the ball down the tee and stretch Mark to the middle You know, again, from the middle of the court, I'm not expecting, you know, him to hit a winner off me. Let's put it that way. And because I pull him out of that ad corner, what I like to do is then go after his backhand with my next shot. And I think what this takes the place of is the pressure, Mark, I'm going to slide you back over, that I think a lot of you feel on the ad side trying to serve to his backhand. It's like, all right, let's get to the guy's backhand. And on this side of the court, it's obviously a really tough serve to serve out wide on the ad side for a right-handed player. You either have to have a quality kick serve, slice doesn't really work, or you have to have a great flat serve, which would be, you know, only a first serve scenario. So if getting into your opponent's backhand is something that you think is helpful for you, this is a great way to hit probably what's going to be a more consistent serve for you. Stretch him out. Yes, there's a follow-up shot to get to his backhand, but like we said, from the middle of the court, he shouldn't be able to do too much damage with his return. And now I'm looking to just set up a nice clean ground stroke either from my forehand or backhand to then get into his backhand side. Okay, so let's look at this slice play on the ad side down the tee. All right, so, and again, just because you get that first ground stroke into their backhand doesn't mean you gotta, you know, lace a winner in there. But again, I think I'm alert, I'm ready. He makes a stab at the next ball. I'm still looking to take the following ball early. Pretty darn good play for what I feel is like a very consistent serve up the tee with some spin on it. Really reliable in my book. And a great way to then get into that backhand, which I think a lot of us know is really the ground stroke to go after if you want to pick on a guy's baseline game.